Are those simple words? Today, those simple words come from this book, Living Wisely, Living Well, and the reading today is from January 18th. And it is a simple reading, but I hope that we can go into it in depth today and really understand these words. So the reading is, choose your words with kindness, inviting receptivity and understanding. Think of what you might say that will help others and not merely stimulate them. And the part that's in bold here is choose your words with kindness. And so that very first simple sentence, choose your words with kindness, we might just think, yes, of course, I should be nice to everyone and loving to everyone, and we move right along. But we need to take something that's simple like this and meditate on it and think about it and think about its implication in our life. So I'll begin by talking about the word choose. That while we are still in an ego, that we have to make a conscious decision to take charge of our life fully. That as spiritual aspirants, we can no longer put the blame on anybody else. And again, we know that you've heard that many times growing up, both in age and spiritually. But do we do it? Or do we think, oh, well, I did that, but it's because this person did that, and if he hadn't have done that, then I wouldn't have done that, and really it's not my fault. If you have thoughts like that, and it's all right, we all do on the spiritual path until we gain complete control over our minds, and we'll get into that later. But if we have thoughts like that, we really need to back up, and we need to think to ourselves that there's only one person who can change our thoughts, and there's only one person who can take control of our life, and that one person is us. And of course, we do need the help of souls that are more advanced than us. We do need the help of a guru and God, and being in tune with God. But at the same time, God's not going to do it for us. That we have to make that effort. And it's a huge battle, let's face it. That it's not easy to try to achieve the perfection that Christ achieved, that Buddha achieved, that all of the great masters have achieved. That's one after many lifetimes of great difficulty. But we have to start today. We have to start in this moment. We have to make sure that we are decided and firmly committed that we are going to seek God and nothing else. And that we're going to seek God and not stop until He appears to us, until we find Him. And so in that decision, that one thing that begins to happen is we start to see that this world outside of ourselves is nothing but a reflection of ourselves. And again, that consciousness, it comes, but then it goes away. That this ocean of Maya is very strong, and it takes that consciousness away from us. But we must pull it back, and we must begin to realize that everyone, if there's any little thing, some flaw that we see in another person, that's because this world is a mirror, and we have that flaw within ourselves. We may not have it as big as the other person has it, but we still have it. And if we're not worried about it, if we're not mentally criticizing that other person, it means that it's no big deal, that we're over it. But if we're mentally criticizing, then we do have it. So, this is all being said about this power of choice, and that we must choose, and then choose your words. The next thing that I want to get to is words here. That the power of word, that a master, he chooses his words so well that whatever he says is bound to come true. That if a master says to you that you are well, that then you will get well. There's a wonderful story about that in the autobiography of a yogi with Sri Yukteswarji putting on weight instantaneously at the command of his guru, saying that you are well. But how did Lahiri Mahashaya gain that power? It wasn't in one day. It was from constantly making his word, being true to his word, being a man of his word, and making sure that whatever he said, that he actually did it. So we have to do what we say, and we also have to mean what we say. That we can't just have our word just be insincere or be with flattery. That this topic here is choose your words with kindness, and one point of kindness is that kindness doesn't mean flattery. It means sincerity. That we so often, there's people and they are nice, but you can easily tell if it's just a surface niceness. But on the inside they might be mentally judging you. Also, while we're on this topic here of sincerity and not flattery, that flattery is really of the ego, and it's an ego-to-ego relationship. And as we grow on the spiritual path, as we climb, we are trying to be in a state where we have neither a superiority complex, where we think we're looking down on people, nor an inferiority complex, where we just feel that everybody's better than us. That we are trying to realize, and this goes back to the reflection, we're trying to realize the oneness of all things, and we're trying to realize our oneness with all other people. And so we don't want to have that inferiority complex, nor the superiority complex. And that's why we don't want to, even though we're saying words with kindness, it's not with a, oh, you're such a wonderful person, you always do the right thing, you're so good. That it's not like that at all. That you can praise people, but do it gently. And do it when you really mean it. And don't always do it. This is an interesting point. That people from the West, that they just go around saying thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you to everyone. And Swami Kriyananda said thank you to Ananda Moy Ma. And she said, would you thank your own mother? And Swami Kriyananda said yes. In the West, he would thank his own mother, that it's just a way of social lubrication there, just to make sure everything's all smooth and harmonious. So I was reading all this and really trying to tune into Indian culture. And I asked a friend of mine, we were in a restaurant, and I think someone served something. Thank you, thank you. And my Indian friend said, you don't need to say that so much. And I said, okay, but then how can I convey my gratitude? Because I don't want to just have this superiority thing that I have money in my pocket, therefore I pay you and I tell you what to do, and I don't care how I treat you. Because if someone does bring me food, even in a simple situation like this, that I want to have gratitude in my heart, and I want to convey that gratitude. And so my friend said to me at this meal, it's in the eyes. That you say thank you, but not with words. You say it with your eyes. And this is a very fascinating side of Indian culture that I love very much. That there is that deep respect for one another that comes and it's conveyed simply with the eyes. And so we want to figure out how we can say these words with kindness. And back again to this thing with words is replace this sentence with, but choose your words with kindness. Let's replace choose your thoughts with kindness. Because we're talking about the subtle things here, and your words really are only going to be a reflection of your thoughts. All the time people say, think before you speak. Okay, but do we have enough control of our mind to be able to think before we speak? Do we have enough control of our emotions to, again, be able to think before we speak? Do we have enough control of our emotions so that our thoughts are colored by our downward pulling feelings is what I'm trying to say, or even our upward pulling feelings? That yes, we want all of our energy to be going up, yes, we want to live in uplifted feelings, but we don't want it to be in this rajasic way where we hit these huge high moments and we're just so happy to everyone, and we might be thinking these happy thoughts, but yes, they need to be happy and uplifted, but they need to be sattvic. They need to be calm. There needs to be this calmness underneath everything that we do. There needs to be this calmness in our heart so that our thoughts are calm and happy. There was one other thing that I wanted to mention about, when we say, so that we want to think before we speak. But the thing here is, it's an interesting point to consider, that all of us also want to have a group of close friends around us where we don't have to feel that every word is just perfectly balanced and weighed, that almost becomes conniving, where you're weighing everything out so much in your mind, there's no flow to everything. And we've probably all met people like this, where every word is calculated. And that's not really the way to be. So first of all, within our intimate circle of friends, and this means a group of friends that are uplifted spiritually, a group of friends that actually care about us, a group of friends who only say kind words to us. So within that group, that we can come a little bit more from the heart. And if our heart is in the right space, our mind automatically will be in the right space. But then, in that outer circle of friends, that we should be very careful of what we say. And another reason for that is that it comes to time. And the thing here with time is that when a child might talk unkindly to his friends, and the parents will say, no, they'll correct their child, that you should only speak nicely to your friends, because the parent knows of what it's like to hold a long-term relationship, maybe over 10, 20 years, and the parent knows that the friends that they have that are now in their close circle, it's because they've maintained that kindness throughout those 10 or 20 years. The child doesn't have that perspective. But the thing is, our guru has the perspective of all of our lives, and has the perspective of those unkind words that we said long ago, perhaps in a past incarnation, that we still can feel sensitively, that there's someone who comes, maybe they're even new, and they just come to the path, but you see them and you might already feel not quite right about them. And again, it's all a reflection, so we can't just blame them, but probably we've had some interchange of words, energy, thoughts that weren't quite right in the past. So we have to clean up our side of the street when we start looking at this long perspective of how many lives we lived, because we want to get out in this lifetime. But we're certainly not going to get out in this lifetime if we're treating people with disrespect, if we're not being kind to people. And again, this doesn't mean to become a doormat, that there's times to stand up for things, that the few saints that I've had the good luck to meet in this incarnation, that if you try to push that saint in the wrong direction, they'll stand up and they won't move for anything. You could push as hard as you wanted, but they will stick to Dharma like anything. But they'll even still do that with kindness. I saw Swami Kriyananda sternly discipline and scold someone. This is worth talking about. It was very interesting. That it was almost as if he had one hand, and now, I mean, this is a visual. It didn't go on like this at all, but it was almost as if he had one hand reached out to that person's heart, and it was like, I'm giving you so much love. And then the other hand was almost like, you've been a very, very, very bad boy. But the person who was receiving this scolding, he just really took it. And it was because he knew that it was coming from love. It was because there was that one hand holding it with so much love. And he knew that Swamiji was giving it out of kindness. So even though the words were tough, they were tough. It was tough to even be in that room. And I wasn't the one receiving the scolding. But we all somehow knew that it was coming for that person's highest good. And he knew in his own soul that it was coming for his highest good. So to choose your words with kindness doesn't mean to be a doormat. And the saints will stand up for what is right and what is true. But in their core, that there's something that is eternally kind and is only looking out for the highest interest of every human being, because they see themselves in that human being. They only want to treat that person as they would want to treat themselves. Now I want to back up a little bit here. I was talking about this inner circle of friends and then an outer circle of friends. With the outer circle of friends, that you probably do have to choose your words with more discrimination, and that's fine. And with your inner circle of friends, that bond of the heart, that heart connection should already be there of pure kindness, so that you can flow more easily. But the point that I wanted to make in all of this is that as you become more saintly, all the world becomes your friend. All the world becomes your outer circle in one aspect. On another aspect, you will still have that inner circle. But when all the world becomes that outer circle, then there's no need to try to think it through so much. And the point that I'm really trying to make here is that life with God becomes a flow. That it just becomes smooth, it becomes effortless. And that there's higher states of thinking and lower states of thinking. And that's all dictated by our consciousness. But as we start meditating and we start raising our level of consciousness, that we are able to get more into that flow, and it's not something that just has to be so thought out. And we've all had this experience when our thoughts, they just kind of chug along, it's hard to make the mind move. And we've all had the experience where we're deep in meditation and we just feel that the thoughts, that they're just like little vapors, just like a little cloud, that just a little puff can blow that cloud away, and the pure sunlight of God can just shine on any aspect and show it in its entirety. Now, the point here about meditation is that meditation is not just something where it's in your meditation room, but you don't bring it out into your daily life. That meditation makes us more aware so that we have that higher level of consciousness, so that our thoughts are automatically manifesting kindness, and that we're not having to think our way through the trap, through the maze so much. But even still, that it is good to weigh our words and to think before we speak, so that we can choose our words with kindness. The next thought that comes to my mind is when people are angry, people tell them, take some deep breaths, count to 10, and in that, they don't know, but they're on their way to learning pranayama, and they're on their way to learning the secret of pranayama. And so, this is another aspect of this, that if we have become emotional, if we have become a little bit angry, and there's levels to all of that too, that we definitely should think before we speak. But if we're in that higher level of God's awareness, and the level of awareness that God is doing everything through us, and that's a state of consciousness that we feel, and we're feeling His joy, we're feeling His love, and we don't have to think it through so much, that we can just go from the heart. And so now let's focus on this word, kindness, that we want to choose our words with kindness. What does that word really mean? Love. But it's a beautiful word for love, because sometimes we can think of love as the sticky, gushy love that we see in Bollywood or that we see in Hollywood, depending on which side of the planet that you're on right now. And that's not the type of love that I mean at all. I mean this type of divine love, that word kindness, that it means respect, that it means dignity on your side, and dignity for the person that you're speaking to. And that love, it turns into a love that is God loving God. In the beginning, our understanding of love, it has to be personal, and that's okay. Don't be afraid of that. Don't, in the name of spirituality, just turn your heart off and just think, I'm not going to love anyone, I only love God, and make it so dry and so cold that it's fine to love people personally. And in time, that personal love, it will blossom, it will transform into an impersonal love. It's a very interesting thing, because ultimately we do want to get out of our ego. We want to only radiate and receive this impersonal love, but we can't pretend to be where we're not. We can't pretend that we're suddenly just out of ego and that we're suddenly these perfect beings. That God gives us our children, God gives us our husbands, our wives, our friends, so that we learn how to perfect that personal love and transform it into an impersonal love. And the highest way that this will happen is with our Guru. That right there, that is God in the body. And yet, we learn to love God in the body, but slowly we begin to realize that there's something much more, something just unbelievably more shining through those eyes. And the Guru will treat us with kindness, that all of the words that come to us through him will be with kindness. And so we will want to emulate the Guru, and we will want to speak in the way that he speaks. But speaking of the way that a Guru speaks, is his words are going to be melodious. That it's kindness, love is something so deep. And someone who's truly a saint, that even the manner of his speech, it will have this effect on you, that it will just want to draw you, not even to him, it may draw you to him or her, but it's going to want to draw you into your own highest self. It's going to give you this feeling of, yes, I can do it. Yes, I can achieve these high states. Yes, I do want to dedicate my life more perfectly to God. Yes, I do want to be even more peaceful. Don't forget that Krishna says that without peace, how is joy possible? And so the kindness of the Guru that ultimately radiates from his eyes, but that also emanates from his words, that it's going to have this subtle effect on us. And it's going to do things to us we're not even sure how it's working in the beginning. But right through his words, through the vibrations of those words, that it's going to uplift our consciousness. So I again want to reiterate, I want to backtrack a little bit here. Start with the personal love, start with the personal relationships, but then transform those personal relationships and bring those relationships up even higher. The next point that I want to make here, I want to interject one personal story of my own, just to make this a real topic, because we can go on and on with philosophy, but it's how do we make it real in this? And I've been studying Hindi and doing my best for a long, long time. And one day I was speaking in Hindi, and someone just flat out laughed at me. They just said, "Your Hindi's so funny that you're saying the words right, but you're saying it with an American accent, and it's just the funniest thing I ever heard." Ha ha ha. And what this person was saying was bilkul. It was absolutely correct that I was saying it funny. I'm sure it did sound funny, and I still, to this day, am trying to work on my accent. But the way that laughter came, it was with a little tinge of ego, and now, I fully admit that I've been too sensitive to that. That if I had no ego, then it completely wouldn't have affected me. That I just would have kind of laughed impersonally at the whole thing. Yet those words, or that laughter even it was, both laughter and words, probably spoken about 5 or 6 years ago. But I still remember them. And sometimes when I speak Hindi, I kind of choke up a little bit and just wonder, how's this coming out? Are people going to laugh at me? And again, that's my own personal problem, and I have to get over that. But it emphasizes two things. One, it emphasizes of how we cannot think about simple little interactions between us, the impact it might have on someone 5 or 6 years later. So we should try to gain this awareness. Ultimately, everything on the spiritual path boils down to awareness, that we're trying to become more conscious, almost that we're trying to feel ourselves in the other person, and how will they respond to my words. So that's point number 1 of this, but then point number 2, obviously, is that I've taken this way too personally, and that I've been oversensitive on the thing. But this is another point that needs to be made here, is that as we progress on the spiritual path, we are trying to become super sensitive. I mean super duper sensitive, so that we can feel, how is the other person feeling? How can I uplift this other person? Yet at the same time, there's a time for a super thick barrier around yourself. And when you go into super difficult situations where people are yelling at each other, and it will happen, that you don't have your heart just completely open to everyone, but you have to learn how to withdraw your energy and have that bit of a barrier. That a friend of mine says, have an open heart at all times, and that is the trick to life, but have a thick skin. And so we need to know in deep meditation, when we're with others or when we're alone, that obviously it's time to just get rid of that thick skin and just call in God's presence and uplift ourselves and see absolutely how open our heart can be. But then when we're in public, when we're serving, again, go in all the time, check. Make sure the heart's uplifted. The energy has to be flowing in the right direction. But that sensitivity to what others are saying or doing, that you need to be able to control that, like a little knob, a little dial on all of these machines that surround us in this yoga. So that's a very important point. But anyways, that story was just given so that we could all think about how our words can affect people, and that we can think about ourselves on both sides of the equation, of the words that we're giving and the words that we're receiving, and how we're doing both, and how we can take all of life's experiences and use them to uplift ourselves, that we can ask ourselves, am I being too sensitive here? And maybe that person said something much more harsh or wrong, but can we in our hearts learn to forgive that person and just see them, that's how they are, that they might have a coarse consciousness, that they might not be ready to even ponder these few simple words of choosing their words with kindness, and to try to even tell them that they're just simply not ready to do it. So that's all right. As we start to wrap up here, I want to make sure that I cover this entire thing. And that is, next here is, choose your words with kindness, inviting receptivity and understanding. Isn't that interesting? We think in our minds, well, that person's receptivity just depends 100% on him or her. If his heart's open, he'll understand what I say. He'll be in tune, and it will work just fine. Right here, Swami Kriyananda is telling us, even the way that we say our words will help dictate whether the other person will receive them or not. That we have to pay deep attention to that. So we want to invite receptivity, and we want to invite understanding. That you could take one word, but the way that you say it, people will understand it in many different ways. And so it's so important to have a clear picture in your mind, almost as if you're trying to transfer that picture with your words, especially as we're into Apara Yuga now, that so many cultures, we're all coming together and we're all trying to understand each other and help uplift each other with the best from every culture. But as we speak, our tones, our accents, all of it might not be understood. But if we can speak with clarity, and if we can try to convey understanding, even it comes really from your heart and then from your mind, and try and give that clear picture, then other people will be able to receive the kindness ultimately that you are trying to give. Think of what you might say that will help others. My, is that important? That really, if we want to become as deeply spiritual as we can be, that every word that we say needs to be said in order to help others. It's a wonderful philosophy and way to live life. Going through life in every moment of thinking, how can I help uplift this situation? How can I help uplift the energy here? How can I help uplift others? Sometimes the best words you can say are zero, nothing, to just be quiet. And that's the best way that you can uplift the energy, and that's the best, you can just project that kindness with your eyes, as we said earlier in this talk. So don't forget that sometimes silence are the best words, and don't forget that it needs to be our consciousness, everything that we're doing, we want to be doing it to help others. Finally, this says, and not merely stimulate them. Please remember, Rajas does not work. That Krishna doesn't say it like that in the Gita, but he definitely says it in the Gita. But even whatever Krishna says or doesn't say, of course we want to be understanding his words, or reading his words and tuning in, but deeply we want to be understanding. It was the point I was trying to make with those words. That we have to come to the fact that if we say harsh words, or even if we say words that are so happy, that there's going to be a corresponding fall to that level. So, and as now we're trying to communicate, that we're trying to give our kindness to other people with words, that we want to choose these words that aren't going to be these waves of happiness or these waves of sadness. And that's in this word that Swami Kriyananda has chosen here. not merely things or words that will stimulate them. So be peaceful in your speech. Be kind, be even-minded, be cheerful in your words, in your conversations with others. And then ultimately, let's end here with, let's have a communion. Let's have a conversation inside with God as we pray. And even the way that we pray to God is going to determine whether He comes to us or not. That all of these words that we are giving to other people, and we're learning every day whether they're receiving them or not, that's all just practice to see whether God, in one aspect of thinking, is going to receive our words. In the highest aspect of understanding, will God receive our love? That's the question to ponder. It's been a wonderful time together, and I look forward to walking this journey even farther, even deeper into God's love with all of you. Joy to you.